Let's bring in Ramzy Baroud now, who is on the line from Seattle, Washington. He's a senior research fellow at the Center for Islam and Global Affairs at Istanbul Sabahattin Zaim University. Welcome to you, sir. At this point, how do you feel about this ceasefire? It was such a long time coming, and there was probably still a lot of scepticism when it was first brokered. So far, it seems to be holding. How do you feel about it?
Absolutely. I mean, we expected these kind of setbacks as what happened today, because Israel has done this. I mean, we have a long historical experience with Israel in these, in any type of agreements, reneging on agreements, trying to change the rules at the end of, at the last second. But ultimately, the ceasefire was the outcome of the fact that Israel has failed to achieve any of its objectives, and the Palestinians have succeeded in thwarting all of these objectives. Therefore, Israel is really not in a condition of, kind of changing the rules, because they were pushed into this. And this is why, even though, despite of the setbacks, things ultimately worked out. Yes, Zakaria Zubaydi and Ahmad Manasra were not released. They will be released. I don't think Israel has many options at this point. I think it all really depends on what's going to happen in the second stage. If the second stage go into motion, then we can more or less be reassured that indeed the ceasefire is gonna be completed in full until the very final stage.
If we look at potential problems, Hamas has accused Israel of barring Palestinians from returning to northern Gaza. It's that Netzarim corridor. There's lots of Palestinians there set up in their tent camps. They're waiting to go in. They're expecting to be going in very shortly. That's not happened yet. They're not being allowed in. And then you've got Israel accusing Hamas of not returning Arbel Yehud, a civilian that they expected to be returned. Hamas has come out and said that hostage will be released next weekend. So, I mean, things might go as planned, but at this point, it's got that potential to derail. Do you think that one side will be comfortable with acquiescing first, or will they both give in to what they're supposed to give at the same time? How do you see it happening?
That's right. I mean, it is a political game at this stage, because Israel wants to convey the idea that it has the upper hand, that everything is being done according to its own its own agenda, because ultimately this is also a propaganda war for Israel, and the target audience of that war is the Israeli public. They don't want to appear that they are conceding to Hamas. From the Palestinian point of view, I mean, Gaza has just concluded, hopefully for good, one of the worst genocides in modern history. Virtually all of Gaza is destroyed. So it does make very good sense of why certain logistical things might not be completed exactly the way it was agreed on, if that was indeed the agreement between both sides. Israel wants to pretend that everything is just fine, and it's the Palestinians who are playing some kind of a game. What interest do the resistance have in derailing the agreement? What interest do they have in keeping 600,000, if not more, trapped in central and south Gaza, are not able to access their neighborhoods and their homes, or whatever remained of it, in the north? To the contrary, for Palestinians, returning the refugees and the displaced people to the north is the ultimate act of triumph and victory. So they are so keen on ensuring that that moment happens, and it happens very, very soon. The Israelis know that, the mediators know that, but again, this is Israel, and this is what they do.
The Israeli military and Israeli settlers are reported to have increased the number of attacks carried out in the occupied West Bank. Do you think that as it eases down military operations in Gaza, that actually Israel's now putting all its focus on the occupied West Bank?
Well, Netanyahu is like a magician. I mean, he has this bag, and he's constantly trying to pull things out of the bag to convince the Israelis that maybe the war has subsided in Lebanon, but it is igniting in Gaza. Maybe it's ending in Gaza, but it's starting somewhere else. Look at us. We are invading parts of Syria. We are attacking the West Bank. You see, Israelis, it's all part of the same war. Netanyahu is the triumphant, victorious leader who is able to unify the Israelis. It's just all a trick. I mean, what objectives does Israel have in the West Bank? Occupying the West Bank? It's already occupied. installing a puppet regime in Ramallah. They already have. So their objectives are unclear. And I really think that a lot of this is to create a distraction so that the Israelis may be convinced that their triumphant army is fighting some other war at some other fronts, and it's all part and one and the same. So it maybe has weakened in Gaza, or it has left Gaza for, or parts of Gaza for now, but is starting somewhere else. But I think ultimately they will also fail in the West Bank, because they are going there with no clear objectives, the same way they went to Gaza with no clear objectives, and they ended up failing in Gaza as well.
Ramzy, thank you so much for your time. My guest is Ramzy Baroud, who is a senior research fellow at Istanbul Sabahattin Zaimi University.